Hello, guys, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 1, an introduction to characters with Reilly Smith.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Inked Podcast. I'm Egan Weinacht. I've been a guest on here a couple of times, but today I'm playing the host role, and Reilly Smith is joining us again as a guest to help us get a loose intro into this season's topic, which is characters. One of the most important things of writing, characters. So, how are you today, Miss Reilly?
I am doing very well, and I'm very excited to talk about characters again because your episode was talking about characters back in Season 1, so I know that this is going to be a great time.
At this point, I don't even think we need to give the introduction about Reilly since she's been the host of the Inked podcast since episode 1, and she's been the guest on the first episode of the Inked seasons as well. So I'm gonna jump into our questions right away. So are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Okay. All right. So, as writers, we are all closely familiar with the lives of our characters, but we're going to look today at some important parts of creating a character that your reader can continue to love as they read the story. Excuse me. So, our first question is, why is it important to make our characters deeply developed?
Okay, so this is something that I believe in so strongly is having, like you said, having those very developed characters. And I will say the reason it is so important is because characters or are people, or if you're not writing an actually human MC, then you will have like animals that most likely have more character, like human like characteristics and like the
Mhm.
thought patterns. And humans are complex. We are so complex. And we have such deep thoughts and feelings, and like our brain patterns are so complex. And so, making sure that your character is developed, like all the way from the way they talk down to like maybe the way they smell. Knowing that is so
Hmm.
important because people are so like important and so detailed when you talk to people that if you don't have a developed character, you're like, why is this character like so stagnant? Why do they feel plain and boring? Because people are not plain and boring ever. So yeah,
Huh.
it's just the importance of the fact that people are so dynamic, and so if you're going to create something that's supposed to be similar to a person, then it needs to also be complex and well developed.
Okay. And just for clarification for those listening who might not know the writer lingo, when you said MC earlier, you meant main character, right?
Yeah, I didn't clarify that, but that is what I meant.
Okay. Because I've discovered that writers have a bunch of lingo and acronyms and people who don't know are like, what the heck are you talking about? So I just wanted to make sure anyone who was listening who didn't know what that was knew what that meant.
Yes.
Okay. So, which actually brings us to our next question, which was, how do your MCs help strengthen your story?
Well, obviously, without your MC, you wouldn't have a story because you're telling the
Hmm.
story through their eyes, you're telling it from their point of view. And so without your main character being there, you wouldn't have a story. But like on a little more detailed, like not obviously without them you wouldn't have a story, but like talking about them being in the story and how they're so important in the story is the fact that, like I said, your story is circled around them. So you get to see how they grow and how they like mature throughout the story, as well as showing your topic and theme through them. So that is why it's just they're so important, and how they affect your story is that they are the one that is telling your story basically.
Hmm. I think it would also. This was something that I was just popped into my mind as you were talking about over the last two questions was writing the point of view or POV, if you know the writing lingo, which POV you write and also um, could define how you develop your character. Like I know probably the most popular POV to write in is third person past,
Mhm.
Um, but there are plenty of other ones. I just finished a book by Kara Swanson. She's a teacher at the Young Writers Workshop, which I'm a
And she's
member of,
so awesome.
which we are members of.
Yeah.
Um, uh, it released last year, and it's written in first person present. And I've read a lot of other books that
Wait,
are different POVs.
is this Ignite? Is this the one you're talking about?
Yeah, it's Ignite. I,
I,
I, I
st-
thought I said the title earlier.
I don't think you did. I
But
still
yeah,
have
it
to
was
read
Ignite.
it, but that'll be cool. I didn't know it was written. Oh, that's cool. Let's learn something new every day.
Yeah, and I haven't read them. I'm not a big fan, but I believe the Hunger Games are written in first person present, right?
See, I wouldn't know. I've never read them either.
Okay, now someone's going to have to send us a message. One of the Hunger Games, someone who is a Hunger Games fan is going to have to send us a message and tell us which point of view they're written
Yeah,
in
if you know,
at some point.
please inform us.
Yes, we'd like to know.
That would be great
Okay.
information.
Yes, that would be. Okay. Next question. What are some things that you think are super important to give your character?
So, obviously there are so many things that we can give our character, so many like quirks and flaws and like we talked about this more in like the first season of the show on the episode where you and I chatted about characters. And obviously we talked about their strengths and their weaknesses. So I'm not going to talk about that
That
so
was a lot of
much. That
fun.
was a lot of fun. But I'm not going to talk so much about that just because like I said we covered it in season 1. So if you want to hear more about that, go back to that episode. It was very good. Um but I will say some important things to give your characters are A, like I said a minute ago, quirks. So giving your characters some really fun quirks is great because there's things that people can just be like, oh, that's so funny. Like, that just made my day. Because even though they're depressed, they have this quirk. And, like, it just makes them so much more fun to read. So, like, maybe I actually based a character off of my friend, and she's gonna know who I'm talking about as soon as she hears this. Um, I love you to death. If you're listening, I swear I tease you about this, but I love it. But she is someone who eats tomatoes like apples. So like straight up will not cut the tomato, nothing, just eats it like you would an apple. And I based a character off of her and gave that quirk from my friend to that character, and everyone that read that story was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so funny that she does that like just casually." And I was like, "It's I know, like it's great." And so giving characters those quirks is something that I find really important. Um Another important thing that I would say is thinking so much about the physical attributes of your character. So, like, we'll talk more about physical descriptions later, which I believe is supposed to be my sister, actually. So, I think my sister and I are going to have fun talking about physical descriptions. But
I'll be looking forward to that
oh,
one.
it's going to be so interesting. So yeah, I will definitely say that giving your characters quirks and then thinking so much about their physical description. So like is there a physical part of them that is like unique to their story? So I have a character who has she's one of my fantasy characters. Her name is Odessa, and she actually has so she's part dragon, and
Ooh.
yeah, I love her story a lot. But she is part dragon, and so one thing is whenever she's around like humans or when she's around other creatures, and she has these massive dragon wings on her back, and so obviously that's a very big physical attribute. But something that she can do is she can actually hide them, and she can't hide the thing with her is she can't hide all of the parts of her that are dragon. So like if she hides her wings, then she'll have like scales on certain parts of her body. And if she hides the scales, then she has her wings type thing. So that's obviously a big physical thing and that attributes to her story so much. So like that's why I say think about your physical attributes of your characters. So like giving them quirks is great. Giving them physical attributes that like are part of their story is also very cool. And like you can do that. You don't have to have like a fantasy character that is like some kind of great like I don't know, is some kind of like weird mixed breed or like a monster of some kind. Like with that, when I say physical attribute, it doesn't have to be something massive like that. It can just be that they have a tattoo. Like maybe that tattoo means something in their story. Like I have a character that has one of those. But like maybe that tattoo means something, or like maybe it was given to them, or like maybe you have something that they always wear that was given to them. So that's two things besides your strengths and weaknesses. Two things that you can definitely think about are giving your characters relatable quirks and giving them some kind of unique physical attribute.
Wow, that was really cool. I think I've actually read a section of that story about the girl who's part dragon. I think you sent me a section to
I
read at
think
some
I
point
think
because I
I think
remember
I
that.
tagged you in that. Yeah.
Yeah, because that sounds extremely familiar. And the going back to your original thing about quirks, that is so true. That I've never heard of someone who eats a tomato like an apple,
I
but
know.
that makes total sense. And I remember thinking, this is something that I've discovered. You can look around at if you're running out of ideas for characters with quirks, you can look around. I remember hearing a story about a man. I think he's actually close to. He was this deeply religious man, uh, deeply religious Christian, and I believe he's um going to be canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church this year. But one thing he would do is that he would climb up into trees and recite entire stanzas of Dante's The Divine Comedy by
Oh my
heart,
gosh.
and he would just do that randomly.
That's
I don't know if people would view that as a
no,
quirk,
that's a quirk for sure.
like, but stuff like that, like you could find quirks in of almost endless varieties in the people
So
around
true.
you, or you could look at some of
I'm
your
a
own.
big I'm a
Like,
big people watcher. My dad and
go
I
ahead.
really, when we go to the beach, neither of us are big ocean people. We don't like to swim in the ocean. So we go on walks down the beach. And one of our favorite things to do is to watch the people around us and like people watch. It's our favorite thing because people can be, no offense to anyone, I'm not pointing anyone out particularly, but like people can be really silly and do some pretty stupid things. And so when we see these events of like people doing really silly things and stuff like that, it gives me so many ideas for quirks, and like it just makes me so happy.
Honestly, I totally that's a really fun thing to do. Like, I'm not as much of a people watcher, but I totally get that because my family will be the first to say that I have incredibly weird quirks. Like, I like to eat cheddar cheese and pepperoni. Like, I make a sandwich out of pepperoni and the cheese and just eat that. Like, that's just one thing that
That
I
sounds
and I
amazing.
love it. I love to do that. But hey, someone who likes that. But oh, but like exactly, just watching people around you, and you're right. Everybody has a quirk of some kind, and that it is also true that we as humans can do incredibly silly and yes, stupid things too. I have done some pretty stupid things in my
For
life thus
sure.
far.
We've all been there.
Okay, so that was the end of the original questions, but I actually have a personal one that I'm going to
Oh
pop on
dear.
you now because
Oh, and evil Egan is back
evil
again.
laughter.
What the heck?
Ah
I
ah
don't
ah
think we
ah
can
ah.
escape an episode
Um,
without that now.
this well, I think most people might say this is payback because you popped a surprise question on me the first time we
Hey,
recorded.
hey.
So who knows? This is this is not my personal motivation, but people might think it's that personal motivation. So think what you want. This is not my revenge was not my motivation, but this was something that I'd come up with while reading the questions you'd sent me. So, what are some of your favorite things about developing your characters personally in your own
Oh
writing?
my gosh, there are so many things, but one of my personal favorite things about developing characters is, like I said earlier, I have based so many characters off my family and friends, and and it's so funny because I
Mm-hmm.
actually have a shirt. I'm not wearing it right now. I wish I was, but I have a shirt that says, "I'm a writer. Beware, anything that you do or say may be used in a story." And so
I need to get me
I
one of
I
those
love
shirts
that
now.
shirt. I wear it anytime I'm at like a writing seminar or like if I'm talking to a fellow writer, I almost always have that shirt on. And so it is like one of my favorite shirts and it's so funny because that's true. I have pulled that on so many people that I
It
know.
is.
And so getting to create characters that are similar to like my family is so much fun. I actually have two friends that I'm not going to say their names because I'm going to spare them that. But they are actually a couple, and they're a very cute couple, and I love them so much. But I'm a romance author as well as like just a regular everyday like fantasy mystery dystopian author, and so when I first met them,
Hmm.
I like knew that he liked her because he's like my he basically is like my older brother. He's like my one of my really close friends. And he was talking to me about her and I was like, "You're in love." Like, "Sir." And so it was really funny because I now have this notebook that I torture them with that has like all of these little like scenes that have happened since they started dating and since before that where they were just so sickeningly adorable that I was just like, I'm gonna write this down and I'm gonna turn this into a
Uh,
story. So like I torture them with that and they hate me for it so much. But that's like my favorite thing is getting to base
oh,
characters off of like my family and friends. Not necessarily to make fun of them or anything, just because I really know my family and friends really well. And it also really tests me on whether I do know them really well or not when I develop characters based off of them.
interesting. I This is a really quick one. Have you ever based characters off of
I
yourself
have.
before?
I have like two characters that are based off of myself, but my biggest thing with basing characters off of myself is obviously I have not me in particular, but like all people have like a perverted view of ourselves. Not necessarily in like a negative or more
Ah,
positive way, just because like I don't necessarily trust myself to describe myself. So I always ask my friends like, "Hey, how do you see me in this way?" Like so that I can build it up. Now I can say I do have a character that has my greatest fear, and that was so hard to write into her story because I was like reliving it. And I was like, I don't want to go through this again. But I feel like it was really good and I feel like it developed her so much as a character. So it was interesting.
okay. Well, I think we're running out of time. So I those were all the questions I had for you. So thank you very much for answering those. And I'm going to
Absolutely.
turn the outro back over to you.
All right. Well, that is all the time for today. We actually went a little bit over, but that is okay because it was super fun and I'm really glad that we did it. So, thank you, Egan, for coming on to host. I hope you can host in the future because that was so much fun and I'd love for our guests to have as much fun with you as I did. Um, and as always, thank you to our listeners for being here, and we will
Awesome.
see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
See you later.